Well, it's that time of year that most people really don't get outdoors to do a whole lot of camping. Some people like to go hiking, short distances and some long distances. But when we think about winter months, we usually think more about preparing for the next season, repairing our gear, making sure that the leather is conditioned, things like that, especially us who are into a more traditional style of camping, right? Now, historically, only the most adventurous either had the funds to get the right equipment to safely go out camping in pretty rough weather. It was either their profession, like they were lumberjacks, literal lumberjacks, or surveyors, or people who worked in forestry, things like that. So they would have the experience, the knowledge, and the equipment to safely go out and do some camping or outdoor adventure, right? Or you were like really, really wealthy and you could afford the best of the best and you're part of some type of camping club, right? Like the Sierra Club, you've got Ford, Edison, those guys, the Firestone Club, things like that. So in early 20th century, your average person really didn't do a lot of outdoor activities except for chop wood for their own wood-burning stoves to stay warm and just try to maintain their sanity during the dark months, if you will. We live in a different age, and I don't think winter camping is for everybody, especially if you just hate cold, right? Like, I'm not a big fan of snow, and I don't really like the winter. In fact, I hate the winter. Winter is my least favorite set of months because I do get a little depressed with all the trees not having leaves and the gray and not seeing sunlight for days on end, it seems. And that is an actual condition. I haven't been diagnosed, but I do get kind of down in the winter months. So I fill my time with my passions. One of those passions is, of course, camping. So I do it just because I really enjoy getting outdoors. But I'm also a scoutmaster. And as a scoutmaster, you got to put on a tough face. And when the scouts want to go camping, then by Jiminy, you get them out camping. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. In fact, when this airs, I will just be returning from our Klondike Derby, which I haven't been to a Klondike Derby for several years. And funny thing, here in Ohio, even when I was a kid, there might have been one Klondike Derby that I participated in where there was actual snow. Usually it was just a mud fest. But this weekend, it seems like Ohio is going to have some snow to have a very traditional Klondike Derby, which is a great time. Competition between troops and groups and patrols, and you test out your skills, not just in the playing field, so to speak, but also at camp, because you got to learn to do it safely. Which brings me to my next point. So when we're talking about winter camping, we want to make sure that we're safe about it, because it's not necessarily like high adventure. You're not whitewater rafting or canoeing out in the Great Lakes and stopping by and setting up camps and things like that, or going on super long treks, not along the Appalachian Trail or something, which are certainly high adventure outdoor adventures, right? But winter camping is a type of high adventure. So you have to make sure that you are safe and you prepare in advance. And like with all things, whether it's warm weather or cold weather, wet weather, dry weather, I suggest you always try and test out things in your backyard first for safety. And if you don't feel comfortable about doing it in your backyard, do it on your back porch. Try out your sleeping bag on your back porch or something. Because you don't want to be caught out in a snowstorm in a life-threatening situation where it could be really bad. And then you might never want to go camping again or might not be able to go camping again, right? So we have to take these things into consideration. So this series, we want to do like a short mini-series. And it's about how I pack for winter camping. And in this situation, it's going to be mixed media because I love traditional gear, right? But I also love some modern stuff, especially when I'm thinking about like cold weather camping. I'm actually going to Nathaniel Logson's Early 20th Century Adventures, or 20th Century Adventures. Yeah, that's his YouTube channel. In Indiana next month, and it's all going to be with historic gear, and it gets really cool. But this particular camp out, I'm actually doing mixed media. And if you are new to traditional camping, or maybe you don't want to do the whole living history thing, mixed media is a perfectly good way of getting into it, right? Because you probably already have certain things. And then you can mix it and have that experience with those old style or vintage style pieces of equipment, and you get enjoyment out of it, right? It's not as fully immersive, but you're still getting a little bit of the flavor. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. So this video, long intro, sorry, but I figure it's important to mention the things that we did. This video is going to be about your sleep system. It was last year, 2024, where I really became committed to this idea, looking back on all my experiences and everything, and listening to others who don't really like camping or getting outdoors, that the sleeping is where they fall short. If they don't have a good night's sleep, they're not having a good time. And then they're like, I don't like camping because it sucks. Who wants to sleep outside with the bugs and the bears and the cougars and everything else, right? Here in Ohio, we don't have a whole lot of those concerns. Maybe elsewhere, but here in Ohio, we really don't. And it helped me realize that there's truth to that. Sleeping is where it should begin, even though that's where you end your day. Because if you get a good night's sleep, man, that was so good. Wake up refreshed and you're ready to go to tackle the day and push yourself on some challenges. So that's where I'm starting. I'm starting with the end, and that is my sleep system. And I am actually bringing with me, because I'm car camping, right? I'm not backpacking, be able to take my car, or if I can't take my car, then I don't really have to go that far to drop off my gear, right? So I am packing heavy, right? And I've got a backup plan for my backup. So I am taking, first of all, my Haven tent, my Haven sleep system tent. Now, I love this thing. Okay, it weighs about 8 pounds. I think it's 7 pounds actually. But I'm just going to say 8 pounds. And I actually got the carbon fiber support poles to, cut down some weight for my backpacking trips this spring. But the Haven tent is all included right here. The pad itself is the support, and I got the true lay flat pad, and it works wonderfully, and it's got an R value of 4. And if you are unfamiliar with temperature ratings and R values and things like that, when it comes to a lot of your pads and everything, you look at the R value. The higher the R value, the better it is at preventing the cold from getting to you. And Dave Canterbury, my buddy Dave Canterbury, he says it's really important to have 4 times as much insulation under you as it does on top. I'm not a survival instructor, and I'm certainly not a prepper, but when Dave speaks, I listen, right? And there's tremendous amount of truth in that. When I was a Civil War reenactor and all we had was a gum blanket, which a rubber gum blanket certainly keeps some of the cold from getting to you, it's not enough to keep the cold from literally trying to pull the heat away from your body. I have done many Civil War encampments, cold weather, that I didn't get much sleep because of how cold it was, and it's because of not having a good bottom layer. So the sleeping pad is where you start, because this is where you are going to lay, right? And if you don't have a sleeping pad, then you need to have a mat or something, right? Well, I've got this sleeping pad. It's rated to an R value of 4. With this addition, this is their cover, right? It's an insulated cover by Haven to increase the value of 4 to roughly about 8, which is pretty top of the line. And it quiets the noise down a lot on the pad itself. It's a little bit of cushion, not much, but a little bit of cushion. So I've got my Haven cover, brings it up to an R value of 8, which is really good. I've got my pad, R value of 4, and then I have my tent. Now, hammock camping is a world unto itself for outdoor adventure because you don't have all the space, right? So when you think about like your cocoon, that's very limiting in a traditional hammock. Well, the Haven tent is a hammock, but it's also a tent. And this thing's got pockets galore. This weekend I'll make sure to take videos and show you how I organize my Haven tent. But this thing is really nice in that regard with storage, organization, and you can sit up in it, literally sit up in it, and you can put on your shoes if you really want to, or put on your pants. It's not easy, but you can do it, okay? So I have my Haven tent here, and there's some certain things that you want to do because of condensation. Whether you sleep in a canvas tent or a nylon tent or some other type of tent, you're going to have condensation because we breathe out about 1 liter of moisture in 8 hours of sleep. That's a lot of water, and in a confines of like a hammock tent or a hammock, that could be quite a bit. And you don't want that on your face, you know, you don't want that on your gear, making your stuff wet, things like that. So there's certain precautions you should do when you're sleeping, especially in a hammock. That way you don't have that condensation build up and getting your stuff wet, okay? So we have our Haven tent overall sleep system here. And on top of that, I have a couple other things. The next thing, I think we're going to go ahead and talk about your sleeping bags. Now this is what I mean about like vintage, right? This is my 1950s woods sleeping robe, which is luxurious. It is 16 pounds. It's a lot of weight, but it's 16 pounds of goose down inside of a canvas sleeping bag that is lined in wool. It's wonderful. It's a 3-star. They made up to a 5-star. I'm searching for a 5-star. So if any of you are watching and you happen to have a lead on a 5-star wood sleeping bag, let me know, because I would love to have it and add it to my collection, but also to use it in campouts like this. So the 3-star, they say it's Arctic rated. Now, as down sleeping bags age, and especially depending on how they're stored, that down will compress and it literally becomes dust, right? So it loses its insulation value. Since this is from the 1950s, we're now in 2025, you know, there's probably been a lot of compression, a lot of degradation, things like that. So it's not as warm as it probably was in the 1950s when it first came out. However, it is still amazingly warm, it's still amazingly luxurious. And I've been able to sleep comfortably, like toasty warm. I'm not talking about survivability. I'm talking about toasty warm down to right around 30 degrees. I did that at squirrel camp when we had, you know, a couple nights that got down to freezing temperatures. And I had no problems sleeping in it with that. However, this weekend, I know it's going to get down to the low double digits. We're talking about the teens, and with wind chill factor, especially being in a hammock, it's going to be colder than that. So this is not going to be enough unless I layer up, which who wants to sleep in a bulky coat and everything, right? Or we do something else. So I'm going back to my youth when we didn't have, you know, premium gear as a kid, like most kids don't, right? And I'm doubling up. So this is a 45 inches wide, so it's rather wide, right? And it's 90 inches long when it's completely zipped up, okay? It's 90 by 90. So I'm taking that, and then I'm taking another sleeping bag that I'm putting inside. I'm saving up for another high quality sleeping bag. We're talking like $600, so it's down the road. I want to get it. Zen Bivy, if you're watching this and you want me to test out your gear, just like I do for Haven, and spout off all of its like awesomeness to thousands of viewers, then reach out to me, because I'd love to partner with you. So I'm saving up for a Zen Bivy sleeping bag. But until then, you know, I got my awesome, luxurious wood sleeping bag that I love, right? And I've got a Coleman sleeping bag. So this is not lightweight either. Remember, we're doing car camping, okay? So those of you who are lightweight backpackers, I know you're scoffing at this and you're laughing hysterically, but I think most of my viewers are probably not ultralight backpackers, or who can't afford the best of the best. They have to pick and choose, right? So this is a nice Coleman sleeping bag. It's rated down to 20 degrees. And I've used this in cold weather, and it is not comfortable at 20 degrees. It is not. It is comfortable to about 40-ish, right? Which is a good rule of thumb when you are buying off the rack, big box store sleeping bags. Even though it says like 20 degrees or 0 degrees, that's survivability. And that means that you will be alive the following morning, but you're not going to be comfortable down to it, okay? Now, I'm not going to get into the whole rating system, but when you buy an off-the-rack sleeping bag from a big box store, add 20 degrees. And when you add 20 degrees, that's roughly where the comfortability is. But even that is not a precise science, because every single person is different, right? I'm a cold sleeper, so I actually sleep better and more comfortably in slightly cooler temperatures than your average person. So you, again, should buy your equipment, add the 20 degrees, try it out in your back porch, on your backyard or something, and see how it rates to you. And then if you get cold, you just go inside and you go to your bed. You're like, that didn't work. I need to get something different, or I need to add to it. Maybe I'm going to add a wool sleeping bag inside of it or something else like that, like a liner. And that will make it more comfortable and more warm, right, to you. I could add wool blankets to this. I could. But this is going to be more comfortable than adding a bunch of wool blankets inside of this. I've done it, and it works. In fact, next month when I'm in Nathaniel's, it's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to take like 3 or 4 wool blankets, and I'm going to line my wood sleeping bag with it. That way I can stay warm, even in the super cold temperatures, with a canvas tent, and you got like gaps all around in the tent. All right, so we have our sleeping bag. Next, let's talk about pillow. Now, I may still take my regular pillow, but I am taking a ZenBivy little camping pillow. This is their smaller size. I want to get their big one because the smaller size is just not quite big enough for me. However, since I'm going to have my coat and my other things inside my Haven tent, I'm going to use my coat as like my pillow, right? So this is going to be plenty probably to support it, especially if I nest it around with it. You'll see. I'll record some video and I'll show you. But this is a small size. The bigger size would be a lot more comfortable. If you do buy the ZenBivy, unless you're trying to cut weight, get the bigger size. But this has a down top. So again, when we're talking about insulation and everything, we're talking about really cold temperatures. That air in that pillow itself is going to be cold, which isn't a bad thing because I like, the feeling of a cold pillow. But the top of it will help, again, your head stay warm. And I'm going to have my beanie or some other type of hood or something over top of my head, because you lose a tremendous amount of heat off your head, off your feet, off your armpits, and your groin. So if you can keep those areas warm, then you will invariably be a lot warmer. And don't forget about your phalanges, your fingers, all right? So now we got our base to our sleep system. I'm going to show you some other things that is going to make my sleep a little bit more comfortable and easier. Not necessary, but it's going to make it more comfortable, especially being cold weather camping, and a little bit easier for me. So first things first, I have my little pump here. This is the Haven micro pump that I bought. If you don't get this one, having some other type of small pump is pretty handy, which I'll just say it now. If you are interested in the Haven, the sleeping bag, the pump, the ZenBivy, I do have affiliate links down below. If you click them, it helps us. But as always, shop around. Check out Amazon. Check out the websites. There might be some specials. Check your big box stores. That way you get the best deal possible. But this little pump is pretty sweet because it has a little clippy here, right? So I can hang this up if I really want to, which I really don't. I tend to just keep this in the little pocket itself because of the thing I use that's attached to it. It has the pump. There you go. Which takes about 2 minutes, roughly, to air up my mattress. It's a big, thick, heavy, long mattress. It also has a little light. That's pretty sweet. On top of that, if you take your phone charger, right, cable, you can plug that in there and you got a little power bank. And you could connect other things to this. It doesn't last all that long if that's really what you're going to do, is to charge your phone, because that's not what it's meant for. But in an emergency, that's kind of handy. What I really, really like about this, besides just blowing up my air mattress, is I have the Ridge Light. Now this thing, I enjoy a lot. It brightens up my camp. It's really useful. I can literally connect this, and I got like a little lantern or a little flashlight, and it's super bright. It's got all these different LEDs. It's got all these little connectors, so I can put it along my ridge line. But what I also like about it, I'll connect it and show you, instead of just telling you. So the light itself is kind of intuitive with this little button. So you just tap it, and it turns on. Tap it, and it turns off. if you tap it and it turns on and then you hold it, it dims down, which is really what I tend to keep it on. I don't keep it on like all the way up, which is going to, you know, help your battery life. But when I'm laying down in bed, especially in the Haven, because it's such a small space, this is really all I need to light up my space. But if you tap it again, it brightens up really, really bright. So that is cool. I love this thing. So if you get a Haven tent, you're on the website, you know, make sure to check it out or check out my affiliate link and help out the channel. But it's fun. It's not a necessary accessory. If you're trying to cut weight, you know, this is something you would leave behind. But otherwise, it just makes your camp a lot more comfortable, a little bit nicer, especially when you're car camping. You know, you can bring the whole kitchen sink if you really want to when you're car camping. Live luxuriously. Now, the last thing that I'm going to, well, all right, second to last thing. Second, because the other last thing, all right, I'll just get to it. I am taking my rubber blanket. Now, my rubber blanket, I'm actually taking to act as like a place that's dry for me to put my feet down off the ground. Because invariably, I'm a middle-aged man, I'm going to have to wake up at least once, probably 2 or 3 times, even if I dehydrate myself, to go to the bathroom, right? So, gotta have to get up, I'd have to unzip, right? And then when you turn, you put on your boots, which is fine if you can do that, but sometimes, you know, your feet touch the ground and then you've got wet socks or things like that. It's just nice to have a dry place where you can put your feet down on, right? Or put your gear on or something like that. And on top of that, I'm actually going to wrap this around my wood sleeping bag. See? History meets the modern age. Because if I tie this around my wood sleeping bag, I know when I car camp, I'm just going to be able to have to drop things down, right? And then I'm going to have to move my car. I can't just leave my car in the campsite. So I can drop this and my sleeping bag stays warm, or stays dry, right? Untie it, lay everything else out. So now my space, all my things will be dry while I set up. So you want to try to think ahead. So it has multiple uses. I could also use this as a poncho, which I've done before. I'm going to have my coats and things, so it's probably not going to be necessary. But I have someplace, something like this, that I can use, you know, again, to kind of designate my dry space. I'm also considering taking another tarp, because even though the tarp to the Haven is large enough to cover the spot, right, and it's not terribly hard to get in and out of, it's supposed to snow Friday, so I think I am going to take another tarp and run it over top of my Haven. That way it just gives me some more space to stay dry if I need to get out of it. But also I'm thinking about the snow weight and trying to shed the snow. I don't know, we'll see. It's the first time I've ever taken my Haven tent on a cold weather camping trip where there's going to be snow. So I might just test it out and give us some more reviews and tell you how I like it or how I don't like it. We'll see. We'll see how it is. Now, the last thing, I promise you this is the last thing. The last thing to your sleep system that I would consider you adding, if I were you. They don't cost a whole lot, and it can make your sleep a little bit better, a little bit safer too, more comfortable, and in an emergency, like they're really, really handy, is get yourself some of these cheap hot hands. Like right now at Walmart, when I picked these up this weekend, they were on sale. Like I said, they're roughly like $8 or $10 a piece for a package, which isn't cheap, right? But you get a lot for them. And there's a couple different versions. You have the hand warmer itself, which are like really, really small. So that's okay if you're for your gloves. But I would suggest for your sleeping bag, either getting the ones that are like body warmer, right? These things last to 12 hours. So right before you go to sleep, you know, you shake them and you stick them in important places around your sleeping bag, such as your feet and your chest. Okay, I say again, your feet and your chest, especially your feet. Because if you keep your feet warm, keep your head warm, it's amazing how warm you will stay and how comfortable. But if you don't get these ones, then at least get these ones. I think these ones are actually better than the little itty bitty hand warmers, especially since I got big hands. These things will fit in, at least a man's hand gloves, and be really comfortable. But you throw these, again, you shake them out, you throw them, a couple, 3 or 4 of them, in your sleeping bag, and you're good to go. If you hold them, like when you're sleeping, you're getting ready to fall asleep, if you just lay them on your chest, that'll help you out. Again, stay warm, all right? But as an emergency, they're also really handy, and if you didn't watch my Christmas special, another good idea to do is heat up some hot water, put it in your water bottle. Make sure that your water bottle isn't like a Grail where you're putting boiling water, because that will ruin the filter, right? But if you put your hot water in a plastic, not metal. I mean, if you do metal, make sure put a sock over it or something, that way you don't burn yourself. But you put it in a bottle and you stick that in your sleeping bag. It'll warm up your sleeping bag as well. And plus, when you wake up in the middle of the night, and you want to drink, it's not frozen. So there you go. There is my suggested sleep system when you think about it. Think about first where you're going to sleep, your tent, right? Think about your ground pad. The Haven is all included. So your pad is going to, again, insulate you from the ground, or in this case of hammock camping, the cold butt, right? Because you got cold air that is constantly crossing underneath you one way or the other. And that'll keep you cold and it'll draw out all the heat from you and help you not sleep very well. So you got your pad, you got your tent, your covering, maybe a liner, something like this, or a wool blanket. That way, again, you got that extra insulation. You got your sleeping bags, because this is like the heart and soul. I know Dave Canberry really likes the ponchos, liners, and the wool blankets, and he's a tougher man than I am. Okay, when it gets down to low double digits and single digits, I'm out of that game, man. I've done it for years. It's not for me. But if that's for you, good for you. So think about your sleeping bags, okay? And if you need to, go old school and just double up, right? Again, test it out at home before you do this out in the field. And have a reserve as well. So like I said, this is my plan A. Now my plan B is to have another tent, not just the Haven tent, but an actual cold weather 4-season tent that I can quickly set up. Like it's just a pop-up. It really doesn't take any time at all to put up. So I'll be able to put that up. I'm going to take my other sleeping pad with me, which is rated it's rated an 8-ish, 7, 8-ish. And I've got this I can throw over it, ease down the noise, also make the insulation a little bit better, more comfortable. So I can throw this on top of that sleeping pad, and I've got my sleeping bags here, but I will also take a couple of blankets and another sleeping bag, especially for my scouts, because you never know how they're going to fare. And my son's coming. And that's my plan B. My plan C, if it gets to plan C, then I'm honestly going home or something, right? I'll be in my truck, turning on the temperature every once in a while, or going up to the dining hall to stay warm. But when you plan A and plan B doesn't work out and you're going to plan C really should be calling it quits when cold weather camping. That's my opinion. That's not Bible or anything, but when you have to go to plan C for cold weather camping, then you should probably call it quits, because your safety should be paramount. You're talking about hypothermia, when you're talking about, it can be bad, man. It can really ruin your life and ruin your day when you actually have hypothermia or frostbite, things like that. You don't want to play around with it too much. So there you go. Plan A, plan B, plan C, get out of there. Something like that. All right. Now, if you like this video, please click like, because it helps other people find it, and you'll be doing them a favor, right? It also helps this channel, and we appreciate it. If you're interested in these items, check it out in the description box below. I have the affiliate links. If you purchase anything from there, it helps the channel, but don't feel obligated to. But we do appreciate it if that's where you're going to buy from. And I also want to invite you to the Camp Crafters Guild, because we have discussions like this along with lots of resources. I mean, we're talking about a massive library of wisdom for learning the old ways the new ways, etc., for how to make your camping experience better. So check out the Campcrafters Guild, www.honorableoutfitters.com/join the guild. And my Preston Mess Kit, which I'm going to be taking my Preston Mess Kit with me, which is another video, so it's in the series, but I am taking my Preston Mess Kit with me to eat out of. If you are interested in seeing what the Preston Mess Kit looks like and how awesome it is, because I want to get it reproduced and check it out at the end of this video, but in the description box below, there's a sign up, because I'm trying to get it reproduced. I need 500 people to sign up for it who might be interested. If you're one of those people, check it out, read about it, see if it's a good fit for you, especially cost-wise and things like that. Watch the video, check out the article that I wrote about it, because the history alone is amazing. So even if you don't want to get it and you want to check out the history, I wrote it on my website, www.honorableoutfitters.com. But yeah, fill out that link and we'll get you on that list. Now, all said and done, if you like to see my winter camping videos and vintage camping videos and things like that, and all in one place, here's the playlist over here. If you'd like to see the Preston Mess Kit in all of its glory, then check it out here. Most of you probably already watched that video by now, because for a couple months now, I've been pointing people over here. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Wish me luck. I'll see you guys next time. Give a kiss and hug to your loved ones, and we'll see you, well, next time. Take care.